What is the point of a headless guitar? Well, today we're going to find out. Or at least that was the plan. However, things didn't really turn out that way. This kit I bought wasn't the best, but let's go back to the start and we'll tell the story from there. Here's the first kind of look. It is tiny. I didn't realize how small these things actually are. So this bridge says Overlord of Music, whatever that means. So we've sanded the body down and I've just cleaned it up here with some non-alcoholic panel prep. We've still got a couple of wee scratches in. I don't want to go too much on them because I really do think it'll go through the veneer. So this is what we're using today. No coffee or turmeric. It's Crimson Guitars Stunning Stains, the water based, so it will pop the grain in between coats. And we're going to go red and purple. Now, usually in the past when I've done a kind of flame maple top, I'll put a black down first, come back, sand it all away, and then that'll show the grain a bit better. This time I'm not. I'm going to go straight in with the colour. We'll see how that is. If I think it needs a bit more, we'll maybe come across with maybe like a brown, sand it back and do it again. But just using cut up old bits of rag. This is an old pillowcase. And I'm going to go in with purple first. I decided I'm going to do sort of midway up purple and then the rest red. So I might stop somewhere around the line of this top pickup. First coat, obviously, but I think the fade, I think the blend on the fade is quite nice actually, you know, between the red and purple. Like I said, if you can see, there's glue here, there's glue up here and up here, so we're gonna have to sand this back anyway, but and maybe around here I can see something, but I'm liking it. As I said, I've done this before, and what we do next, when I put a coat of this stuff over the top of it, which is a lilac pearlized spray paint, when I put that over the top of it, it's clear but it has like a purple tint. It turns the red completely pink. so we'll have a purple to pink burst. And I actually, when I did it before on a test piece, I actually really liked how that turned out. So I'm hoping the same will happen here now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this dry. It's getting quite late out here in my workshop. We've still got no electric in the house, so I'm going to go back to the house, get a fire ripping, get the house nice and warm, and I'm going to call it a day. I'll probably come out here when I've got electric, and I'll use my electric sander to take all this back and fix those glue spots. But doesn't get much more DIY than this. That's my old worktop, and then I've built this little T thing just out of a bit of scrap 2x1 screwed on the body, and we are just going to very DIY paint it here now. I don't know if I'm too pleased with this first coat. I mean, in the light, it kind of looks alright, you know. You're not seeing half the sparkle on the camera as I am there, but it's just not what I imagined. And I think it takes away too much from the flame top or veneer. Using the sun here just to kind of show you. So yeah, I think I messed up a little bit. There's only one thing that I can do now, and that's double down and put a second coat on. Okay, we're back at it with the Headless guitar. Now, since the last time you saw it, I've decided to sand it back to the veneer top. There's a couple of reasons. I didn't really like the finish. I think it lost too much of the definition in that flame top. But also, I had tried to fill in some of the holes with super glue, and then when I was sanding them, it got all kind of gummy, and it was very hard, and I ended up just having to sand the whole thing back. So in the meantime, they've sent me a second body. You might have saw it on one of my shorts, but honestly, it's not much better. The reason they sent me a second body is because I complained about a big crack in the back of the first body. So they sent me the second body, but it's not much better. You probably hear it in my voice. I've got a bit of a cold, so I'm not going to do much talking today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the camera up top, and I'm going to stain or dye both of these bodies, and we're going to then choose a favourite, and that's it. Then we'll finish it with some lacquer, and we'll then get to work on building the guitar up.
The more I look at this one, I don't know what it's like with the sunlight coming in, but the more I look at this one, the worse it gets. There's just, I mean, I don't know if you can see. Maybe you can in the sunlight. You see the lines running this way? I think you know, you can feel those like ripples. I think the veneer, because it's such a thin veneer, it's almost like paper. When they've glued it, the veneer's kind of rippled up, so there's big ripple lines running this way. Real shame. Also, there's a big score coming down here. There's a big score across here and here. I think this body as a dyed top. Also, I don't understand why the jack is like this. Anyway, this body as a dyed top I think is not going to do. I'm going to get rid of it, I think. I kind of like it all black. I'll give this 10-15 minutes. I'll let it sink in, let it dry a little bit, and then I'll come back and I'll hit it with probably 320 grit, maybe 240. We'll sand most of the black out, and then we're gonna do something. We're gonna do something. I think I'm going to do the same as last time. I'm kind of losing those wavy lines anyway, so maybe with the bit of black left in there, it'll help. I mean, I'll overlay to compare, and obviously the camera's crap here with the lighting, but I mean, you'll see I said it in the first clip anyway that I wasn't going to put the black in, but thank you to everyone who suggested it in the shorts comments. It was definitely the right way to go. We'll see how it looks once the spray gets put on.
Okay, so it's back the way it was. I think it looks pretty decent. There's a little bit of like cloudiness here where I messed up. The bit of fluff landed, so I'm going to give this a really light sanding, and then we'll put some clear coat onto it, and we'll do the back at the same time. I think I need to sand all this, but I think what I'm going to do is just leave the back this kind of natural colour. I quite like that. I have also done the neck. It's in a oil finish. It is looking and feeling really nice, and we're nearly ready to start assembling this one. Okay, I wanted to show a way to direct mount pickups into wood, and I was going to show it on the guitar, but it's much easier. It's much clearer if I just use this piece of scrap wood I've got. So as you can see, I've put this little threaded insert into the wood. That is one of these little things here. I got these on Amazon. I'll leave a link in the description below if you're interested. It's an M3 threaded insert. Now I've seen this on Shock the Fox. I've also seen before that, I think it was Barlow Guitars doing it. Not sure who was the first or if that even matters, but anyway, I thought I'd mention both them because that's where I got the inspiration from this. Originally Barlow, and then I saw Shock the Fox do it recently and it reminded me of it. So what we want to do is we want to drill. Now these ones I've measured them at 4.5mm diameter, and I found that drilling a 4mm hole in the wood and then tapping it in with a hammer works just fine. You could drill a 4.5mm or a 5mm hole and hold it with super glue. I found with a 4mm and then the kind of threaded knurled type bit around the outside of this, it holds in perfectly fine just tapping it into the wood. If the wood's too hard, I will drill a bigger hole, but for the likes of this, I think this is oak, it's just fine. For the likes of your guitar bodies, if they're, you know, basswood or poplar or maybe even ash, should be okay as well. They just tap them in with a hammer. Then all you need is a set of M3 bolts. I like these little hex head ones. I think they look kind of cool, so that's why I'm using those. Now if the thread on your pickups are too small, you might have to drill them out, so you are kind of committing to that. And again, this is just to show you, because I tried to video it on the guitar body and it was a little bit finicky. So just using this little short hex head screw is enough to just hold it down, and that's it. But obviously then there's no height adjustment with this, it's just bolted straight in. If we want height adjustment, if you've ever bought a pickup, or in this case a Kluson bridge, it usually comes with this thick foam, This thick foam works perfectly as a spring underneath your pickup, so cut a little section of this out, just like this. It's going to be onto the pickup, doesn't need to be really neat. You could of course use springs underneath the bolts, but I find the sponge gives a bit better balance across the whole thing. And then, you know, tighten to go down, loosen to go up, and that gives you some height adjustment. Like I said, these were very cheap on Amazon, so I'll leave a little link in the description for these and the bolts I'm using. Okay, so I have no idea how this bridge actually works. I did see there's this little, if I pull it up, there's this little lever underneath the bridge which seems to slot into this here and lock the bridge into position, which I presume is to just use it as a standard hardtail, which is what I'm going to do. Just obviously slots into the right here. Fits quite nicely. I don't see me ever using the tremolo, so I think I will just keep it locked in position, but just to show you, as you can see, pull this, come on, focus. Use that little lever to slot it in place, and it's now locked in this fixed position, which is where we're going to keep it. So I think I need to somehow take this apart first in order to screw it down. Probably take this off, pull the spring out, release the tension, and then it'll just slide off these posts, which obviously give us some height adjustment as well, hopefully. It's a bit annoying, you don't seem to be able to adjust the height when it's on. These are obviously adjustable. There's, you know, a threaded screw here, so these posts are adjustable with a bit of a, you can do it with a spanner, or I guess when you take this top part off you'll be able to do it. But once this is fixed on the guitar, if you want to adjust the height of the strings, I think you can. As you can see, we have this little end cap thing. It slots there, and then these little string clamps, similar to a Floyd Rose, go on the top here. There's 3 of them, just like on a Floyd, but with this here, I don't know whether maybe it's been cut wrong, or maybe this is how it's supposed to be. I'm not sure yet, but if you see, when pushed right the way up, there's actually a gap just here between the end of the fretboard and this, and I'm not sure that's supposed to be there. It doesn't seem right to me. You can see there's some pencil marks. I think they've maybe either glued the fretboard on in the wrong position. The fretboard's maybe meant to come to this line. Even still, the line's a wee bit off, but I'm guessing that this needs to sit probably about there to be flush with the fretboard. And then is this supposed to act like a 0 fret, even though it's, you know, even with this sitting quite far back, that's quite a far back 0 fret, you know. I honestly don't know at this point. I'm a little bit confused. So again, we're just gonna have to wing it and see what happens, see if we can make this actually work as an instrument. Okay, so I need the spring. I'm guessing if I put it in like this, and then try to do this without blocking the camera, put the spring in first. Pull it back. Compress the spring until I can get basically these little these little hooks onto my posts here. So, fuck bollocks. Losing saddles. So spring in. You know, that was easier than I thought it was going to be. Here we go. Now my saddles fell out. What was holding them in? Is it this little grub screw? Wow, I don't understand this. Don't like this. These saddles are basically held in with hope and faith. Don't know what the hell this does, but I'll put it back in. It's the guitar's butt plug. Why'd I say that? Here it is. Looks pretty cool, I must say. I still don't really see the point of a headless guitar unless maybe you're traveling. In terms of the kit build, it is actually finished. So with the kit, what we got was the body, the neck, and then the hardware. We didn't get any pickups or pots, switch, etc. So I went into my parts bin and I got this. It was a complete set in my parts bin already. I'm not really sure what it's out of. Could be a number of things, but it's something that's, you know, one volume, one tone, and a toggle switch. I think possibly an old PRS I had. There's none that came with the kit, and usually the ones that you get with these kits are pretty basic anyway. They're nothing special. So I think a PRS, like I said, I think PRS, but who knows. For the output jack, I found a little oval shaped plate, and I've just turned it upside down to fit it in this curve. So nothing fancy or special there. I didn't have a black one, so it's chrome. The rest of the stuff's black, but sure, again, I'm kind of just working with what I've got. I could have bought parts for it, but you know. My opinion, don't buy this kit. It's not good. So, as you can hear, that is our major problem. Now what that buzzing is, because the neck is perfectly straight now and I have all the frets nice and level, so there shouldn't be any issue there. The problem is this little piece on the head. If you don't know, this first little fret here is actually called a 0 fret. And what that is that essentially acts as a nut. Now some guitars have these, and it needs downward pressure onto it in order for the string to engage. So if you hear the B string's the problem here. If I just put my finger there and press down slightly, you can see the buzzing's gone. So what's happening here is we don't have enough downward angle of the strings in order to put pressure on the 0 fret, or what would be the nut. And I have no way of adjusting that. I can raise the bridge, but that doesn't really make a difference there. There's a slight difference, but not really. The bridge is on its lowest setting. These saddles aren't really too great for raising. You can raise them up, but it's not too great. And the action towards the bottom end of the neck here is probably at the upper limit that I would want. Now it is good, it is playable, but for my personal preference, I would like it lower down here. And as I said, the neck's completely straight, so we're not going to adjust anything with the truss rod. We have a couple options because we are going to make this playable. Oh, I should mention as well, there's another problem. So the other problem is usually your 0 fret is right up against your nut on a guitar with a 0 fret and nut. Here, because you know, it's combined, it probably would work if we had the downward pressure, but because there's no downward pressure, when you're tuning the guitar, you're actually not tuning it against that 0 fret, you're tuning it against the string holder clamps here, which means then you're getting like pretty much this space here. What's that? Probably close to ½ inch worth of extra space here, extra string length, which means by the time you get down here, your intonation's way off. If that makes sense. I'm maybe not explaining it properly, but anyway, your intonation's way off because of this gap up here and because we're not fretted properly against the 0 fret. So you could just hold it down here, you know, tune it, hold it down, get the string in tune to where it is fretted against that, but it means your open string is then going to be out of tune, whereas the rest of it should be in tune. And this is a 25.5 inch scale length, so it matches, you know, most standard Stratocaster, Telecaster type things. How we could solve this, we could recess this little string holder thing a couple millimeters down in, and that's going to give us the extra string pressure and fret it against the 0 fret. However, the problem with that is on the end here we have a hole which is lined up perfectly for our truss rod adjustment nut. So if we recess this, we're going to block some of the access to the truss rod, which I don't want to do. Again, I found this in my parts bin. So this is a brass nut. I actually remember buying this, bought this a while back, and I wanted to replace the nut in a Telecaster and do a little comparison between a brass plastic nut. But when this came, it was far too low profile. So that meant it didn't work in my Telecaster project. But low profile is what we want probably for this here. So I'm thinking, and it just happens to be the perfect width for this. I'm thinking if I remove that 0 fret and I chisel out a slot for this brass nut and I put this brass nut in there, we'll have a proper nut in the guitar, and we're going to have good downward action because it's a good bit higher than the fret. So we're going to have good downward action into this string clamp holder. That should remedy the situation. Basically, we're just putting a nut on it and getting rid of the 0 fret. What I now need to consider when I'm doing this is the action of the strings when I put this nut on it, because the action's pretty good for most of the fretboard here. Like I said, kind of my upper limit, but still good down the bottom here. But when I add this nut, we are going to lift it quite considerably, depending how far we recess the nut. But again, we need to recess it far enough that we're going to give ourselves the downward action rather than just replacing the same problem. We've got the nut added. The string height, as I thought, is too high. So I tried to lower the bridge. I was tightening one of the posts and it sheared completely off. I'm trying to get this finished so I can get the video out in a day or two. It's always the worst thing about doing YouTube videos is you're always rushing to get the next content out, and then things like this happen. So I think all I can do is order a new bridge. I'm going to take a risk and buy a different type than this one. From the measurements, I think it'll fit in the route. I just think the route's maybe a bit too deep for it, but we can possibly add a block of wood in or something. Let's just get it working. Let's get it working as a guitar, and we'll worry about the aesthetics of it later. So sound demo was kind of pointless because this kit didn't come with pickups, so I'm just showing you what's in it. Like I said, I think there may be PRS, but I can't quite remember. I don't think this was a fair representation of a headless guitar, so I am going to do another one, but that's going to have to wait till I have some money. This video was kind of turned into a review of this headless guitar kit. My suggestion is you don't buy one. Wasn't a very good kit. In summary, the issues we had were this little string holder thing at the top where the headstock would be. I had issues with the positioning of it. I had to cut away part of the neck. I have issues with there's no downward string tension on that, so using the 0 fret that we had in there originally, came with the kit, it didn't work, so I've had to put a nut in. I put a brass nut in, which I actually really like. I also like the look of it, kind of matches in with the brass saddles here, but yeah, there's still not enough downward pressure in there. No, it's not a total failure. You could put some kind of bar string tree, something similar to what you see on a Floyd Rose setup, and clamp it down, and that would give you the string pressure. However, these aren't the kind of things you want to have to modify when you get a kit. You want to be able to just put it together out of the box, and this isn't the case with this one. Obviously, we had issues with the top, which I've fixed. It had quite a few chips. I've sanded them out. Thankfully, I didn't go through the veneer, and the top turned out looking quite nice, apart from a little mistake in the finish I made here, which we'll not mention. The bridge was a bit of a nightmare. Obviously, I broke the other one because I was trying to sit it lower because I added the brass nut, and the stud just sheared off completely. Now I've checked it, there should have been enough movement there to loosen it. It just didn't want to, and it sheared off. So I bought this new bridge. This was actually 50 quid. Pretty expensive for what it is, and although I love the look of it, I like the saddles, I like how the strings go into it better than the other one, I absolutely hate trying to tune it. Trying to tune it is an absolute pain on my little delicate fingers. Trying to turn those to tune them can be a bit of a nightmare, and it actually really hurts the fingertips, so yeah, I don't like it. And yes, when I'm tuning one, I'm actually hitting the one beside it most of the time, and I'm putting it slightly out of tune, so it's not fantastic. For the intro, it was tuned to drop C. For this bit here that you just heard, it's tuned to D standard, and it holds the tune pretty decently. Those of you with a good ear or a good eye, you'll see that I did not intonate the bridge at all. That is just because I'm so fed up with this, I can't be bothered. It's going to take a lot of playing around to intonate that. The string's going to nearly have to come off to get the Allen key in. It's not the best design for intonation. It will intonate perfectly. That's not what I mean. I just mean it's a pain to do. I'm going to have to keep taking the strings on and off, or loosening them, tightening them, and my little fingers can't take much more of that. The neck is pretty nice. Now, I really love the wavy grain that we got in the fingerboard that came with this. It feels quite nice. It's very slim. It's almost like a cross between a Strat and an Ibanez, that kind of slim D, but not quite as thin as an Ibanez, and obviously much more narrow as well. So yeah, I do like the neck on it. Do I see the point of a headless guitar? Not really. Not really. I mean, if you travel and you want something small to bring with you, yeah, cool. Maybe if you're in a studio and you want something just to have lying around to, maybe, yeah. Other than that, I think maybe good guitars for children. I think all I'm going to do is give this to my 5-year-old. She's really fallen in love with it, so she can have it. It can be a bit of a practice guitar for her, because the one I made her at Christmas is still a little bit big for her, but this here might be a decent size. You'll also notice I'm missing one of the little string clamps here. The thread actually broke on that. I was maybe messing around and dropped it. But yeah, so the bang from that fall has actually stripped the thread out of that. So I'm gonna have to re-tap it and put a new one in or something. I don't know. I mean, it works fine without it, but just to complete it, I might have to put another one in. I don't want to be all negative. I mean, on the plus side, I think it looks really nice. I actually like the style of a headless guitar. I think they're pretty cool. Major negative is it has a neck pickup, so it would be nice to remove that, but hey. It does play quite nice. You know, it's kind of hard to get used to the size of it. I would love to move the jack from here to maybe round the back or somewhere else, because I would like when I'm sitting down to put my leg here on this portion, but you can't do that when it's plugged in. You know, it'd be nice to play it almost like a flying V, you know, but a bit smaller and probably more comfortable. But we can't do it with that jack socket there, so as a design thing, that might be nice to move. But I mean, it was very annoying to finish this thing. That being said, I did learn quite a lot along the way, and you know, I got some valuable experience. I do like it. I'm just going to leave it as it is, give it to my 5-year-old, and she can use it as a bit of a practice guitar. Something that's nice and small and light for her. I think that's the best use of this guitar. So I'm going to intonate it right now, tune it up, and leave it for her. See you next time. Guess what I forgot? Oh, every time. I forget the outer ground wire, every time. I'm gonna end up electrocuting myself, aren't I?